Saturday, 7 a.m. Up early. Well, earlier, I should say. Oh, this Texas case. Let's see if anybody pops on real quick. Maybe we go over here and sit down. Good morning. Trying to get set up out here on the deck while I talk to you guys. Now, this is a topic that I didn't want to get involved in, but I feel like maybe talking about the dealer side. There was an accident that happened at a dealership in Texas. A lady bought a 2020 Ford Escape from a dealer in Texas, and she took the vehicle back. What's going on, man? She took the vehicle back to the dealer for its first oil change, and somehow it ended up in an accident. Good morning. These sometimes when you go to the dealer to take your vehicle in for repairs, there may be like open recalls or something like that. So one of the first questions that people ask me is, why would the technician in that vehicle be out on the road with my vehicle when I simply just went in for an oil change? What was the reason for that? Well, as these new models roll out, there are different things that happen. Now, I'm not saying this is the case for this technician, but what I am saying is we often have things on these new models, like the 2020 Escape is still new, and there are still things that are popping up with service messages and bulletins and stuff like that where ABS modules, PCMs, things like this have to be reprogrammed because of maybe updated data or something that they're seeing in the programming when it was built that needs to be changed to make the vehicle more efficient or more safe or whatever it may be. So it may go in for an oil change, but are dealers obligated to fix recall if a vehicle is brought in for a different reason? We are. So if it's like a safety reason or if it's like an emissions related reason or something like that, the manufacturer wants that taken care of when it's in the hands of the technician. Now, typically when the customer comes back in, we'll say, hey, we noticed that there was an open recall for your ABS module reprogramming. We automatically assume that the customer wants safety stuff like that taken care of. It's not something that we have to get approval and stuff on first before we do that, because it is a safety related concern. It may be a module update that causes the vehicle to, for instance, if it has no start concerns or if it has ABS module issues that the manufacturer is seeing could cause safety issues or something, we take care of that stuff so the customer doesn't have to worry about that in the future. So it is common for a vehicle to come into a dealership and we see things that need to be repaired and we just go ahead and take care of it because it's under warranty. Everything we don't have to get an approval on. Something like the seat track is making noise, there's an update for it. Now, something like that, we would give the customer the option, do you want us to actually go in and update putting the rubber grommets on the seat track and stuff like that to make it quiet? But if it's a safety related or a module update and the vehicle's under warranty, the manufacturer wants that stuff taken care of. And I do know on these 2020 Escapes that there was a number of things, like there was backup camera issues, there was ABS module issues, programming issues, and we'll go ahead and knock that stuff out for the customer. And we just take care of it for them. Sometimes a test drive is necessary to make sure that lights have cleared and things like that. Quick question, comfort control module, Volkswagen. I have no idea about Volkswagen programming and stuff like that. I don't get involved with a lot of Volkswagen stuff. Maybe somebody else in the comment section can touch on that. What ended up happening is the oil change got done. The technician took the vehicle out on the road, and what ended up happening is somebody pulled out in front of him. Now, Texas has something called proportional responsibility, and what they end up doing is they end up finding whoever's at fault and they apply a certain amount of basically responsibility on the parties. So if I'm speeding but somebody pulls out in front of me, first of all, I was speeding, so I'm partially at fault, and second of all, somebody else pulled out in front of me. So if it's deemed that we were both at fault, they could actually apply part of the repairs to both parties. But if I was doing the speed limit and somebody pulled out in front of me and it was completely not my fault at all, it's 100% the party's responsibility that pulled out in front of me. Now, when you read the news article and stuff, this is where things start to get a little hairy. The police officer that wrote the police report up through his investigation said the responsibility was on the person that pulled out in front of the technician. The technician was not at fault. He was test driving the vehicle. But in quotations in the news article, it says maybe, could be. These words that try to incriminate other people that may not have had anything to do with it. And as far as I'm concerned, when you do an investigation, that doesn't come up to the insurance company to say this is what happened. The initial look at the situation at hand, the police officer put in the police report that the technician driving the vehicle didn't have anything to do with the actual fault. It was the person that pulled out in front of him on the test drive that was the reason for the fault. But the insurance company deemed that both parties were responsible. Well, until a full investigation is put on and they actually look and see what happened, there's no way that you could actually say that the dealership was at fault for this. Now, you know, some people would think, well, wouldn't it be better if the dealership just said, you know what, we'll just go ahead and pay the 30% and the insurance company pay the other 70%? And then when you get everything taken care of and you get the lady back in a vehicle, or, you know, whatever the situation may be, then take your dealership lawyer and have them go after Allstate and get your money back. That would be the safest, quickest way to handle the situation, because that way the lady gets her vehicle back, you keep your customer base. Yes, you lose some money in the short term, but at the same time, that's why you have lawyers to go after the people that took the money from you if you weren't at fault. So that may be the quickest way to do it. But then you also have to look at it from the other perspective. What if the lady just claimed it against her own insurance so she could get into a vehicle faster, so she's not without a vehicle? Could that help? Yeah, it possibly could. It could possibly speed things up. But then does that mean her insurance premium goes up? Does that mean it looks bad as bad remarks on her record because she's using her insurance instead? And then a lot of insurance companies won't even do that because they like to fight this. They like to play this game. Now, the dealership, Tomball Ford, did put the lady in a vehicle for like 3 weeks while everything was going on. But as some of you guys know that use the dealership for services, we're often strapped for vehicles. We can't put a person in a vehicle all the time. And just because you see a lot of cars on the lot doesn't mean that we can just go take a brand new car and put a person in that vehicle and say, have a nice day. Because as they're putting miles on that vehicle is actually losing value. And then customers that want to buy brand new vehicles aren't going to come into a dealership and want to buy a vehicle that's got 2,000 miles on it already. They want something brand new. They want something that has the least amount of miles on it. That's their vehicle. It's a brand new vehicle. So there's reasons why, you know, after so long, the dealership may be like, hey, I need that vehicle back. I understand the situation at hand, but we have customers that are coming in and we can't keep them in loaners. So I'd like to have the vehicle back to put a customer in it that needs it for repairs and stuff. Unfortunately, this situation happened, but there's no details on exactly why the technician was in the vehicle. Only thing I can think of is, and I'm just going to be straight with you guys, the only thing that I can think of with it being the time frame that it was done, is two things. If it was in the morning, chances are it was just a test drive. If it was in the afternoon or evening time, it could have been that the guy made the repair, and while he was going to go grab his lunch or something from the local Wendy's, he wanted to grab his food and come back to the dealership, and that was part of his test drive. Now, am I making excuses for that? I'm not. I'm not saying that that's okay. But what I am saying is the police officer that wrote the report found the technician not at fault. And with Texas law being able to put proportional responsibility on multiple parties, there's a lot of room for failure there. If you're not going off the police report and what was seen at the time, wait a second. What is going on here? Let me clean up these messages real quick. Want to say F me? Who's this guy? Who are you talking about, Pop Cola? I'm gonna have to get rid of this dude because this guy's a clown. John, I'm gonna make you a moderator. Maybe you can help me when you're on. If this, first of all, let me just clear this now. If you were in my comments section and you said something stupid to me, and I had to correct you, yeah, I would say it to your face, dude. I'm not scared of you at all. I have no. This stuff needs to stop on here when people go live. These clowns that are popping up on here. If this guy says anything again, John, you could get rid of this guy. That would be helpful. Anyway, yeah, I could care less about what anybody has to say. Like when it comes to stuff, there's a lot of people that come here because they don't like how critical I am of that clown Scotty Kilmer because of the unsafe recommendations that he makes, and a lot of people get upset because of that. I even went. Listen to this. I even went to the news article or the news reporting from Texas, and what's going on. And I seen like the third or fourth comment down, somebody said, well, if Scotty Kilmer posted this about this incident with Tomball Ford, something would get done. Do you really think this man has do you really think that this man has any kind of clout over a news agency? A news agency is the most powerful company out there that can either make or break you with one posting. That's it. I mean, they can literally destroy your life, regardless if they're the best reporting agency out there or not. They can literally destroy your life in just one video output. That's it. I just don't get how people think that us layman, normal people have any kind of clout over a news agency. It's nothing. Not even close. So my thoughts on the whole dealership thing is, unfortunately, it happened to that lady, and I sympathize. It's terrible to buy a brand new vehicle and then have somebody else do that. Now, I was on a test drive, and I just got done putting a new ABS module in a cop car. I just redid the whole ABS module on this newer programming, because what it was one of the valves inside the ABS module would crack, and it would cause brake malfunction on certain model new Explorers, on a brand new 2020 Explorer. So I had to go in and rip the ABS module out of it, and it was not fun to do it because all the plastic in the front corner has to come out. Then you have to pull the fuse panel and stuff out of it, and then the ABS module is tucked down inside a spot about this big that you have to stick your hands down inside there to get down to the connections and stuff like that, and it's like you're a contortionist trying to get in there. Then you got to go inside the vehicle, and they put the bolts and stuff that mount the ABS module, because it's all one simulated assembly. I think they call it it's a hybrid system, so it's like a simulator. It's all built in as one unit, and it's not easy to pull them out of there. I never really was a fan of Craftsman tools, to be honest with you. I do like Husky and Cobalt, but I probably think I like the Cobalt tools the best. I think that from how I abuse things, the Cobalt withstands a lot of the abuse that I have put them through. So if I had to pick between Husky, Cobalt, or Craftsman, I would probably pick Cobalt. And I like the blue colors and stuff. I actually had, after I put this ABS module and stuff in this cop car, I was out on a test driving everything, and a guy pulled out right in front of me, and I was in a cop car. I literally had to lock up the brakes and get into the inner lane, so if this guy when he went to go cut in front of me, I would barely miss him, because if I would have stayed in the lane that I was in, I would have hit the guy. So I locked up the brakes, and I got into the left lane on the inner lane, trying to go around the back side of the guy, and I just barely missed the guy. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with people? I'm in a cop car, and for God's sake, they pull out right in front of me. So it's just people are careless on the road, and I think this Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. The customer is innocent in this. It's unfair to her completely. The problem is whenever these insurance companies are given this kind of control, when the insurance companies are given the kind of control to place fault on people instead of an investigation taking place and actually putting fault where it was, pulling local cameras on the front of facilities or something like that, something to this extent. But for you to just be able to take a police report and the police report say that the person that was on the road that pulled out in front of the technician was at fault, the technician was not at fault, and then the insurance company say, well, we're just going to decide that 70% of it is going to be covered by the person that hit you and 30% is going to go on the dealership. It makes no sense to me. What kind of investigation did you do? What did you do to determine that the technician had anything at fault here? There's no information put out. They made it a public matter before it really even needed to be a public matter. And I would have seen this all the way through before I would have went to the news agency or anything like that. If you know the insurance companies are fighting with each other and things are trying to get taken care of, and then you just come out and say, oh, I want it to be a news issue now, I don't know about that. I mean, that doesn't seem legit to me. That if it would have come out that the dealership was absolutely not doing anything to make this woman comfortable at all, I could see an issue with that. But they're trying, they're attempting, they're going after Allstate. They're actually in the middle of everything that's going on, and they're trying to get this woman taken care of the best that they can with what they have. Now, who knows what the situations are, how it's going to play out. The problem I have is when you give insurance companies that much control and you let them do that type of thing to where they can just decide whatever they want, I'm not okay with that. That doesn't jive with me. A lot of insurance companies are completely crooked. They'll do whatever they can to take your money to cover you monthly, but then whenever it comes time for you to be taken care of, they'll find any way that they can to escape and get out of it. I've dealt with that before. I've had issues like that happen where I've got the best policy and I've got the most expensive policy, but then when it comes time for me to get taken care of, they act like they don't even know me, or they wait days on end to even answer questions or figure out what's going on. My window broke, I got into an accident, somebody hit me when I wasn't in the car, or hit the car, like a what do they call that, when they hit the vehicle or hit and run. They flee the scene and then there's nobody there. USAA is wonderful. The good thing about USAA is if you're with USAA and you're a vet or you're a family member of a vet, I think there's multiple ways you can get in with USAA. Is you pay more, but what they do is when you get into an accident and then you go to buy another vehicle, they give you 20% of the down payment for that vehicle. They'll actually give it to you. They help you make the down payment on that new vehicle so you're not out of a vehicle that long. Allstate, I've never seen a problem with Allstate. I've never seen a problem with State Farm. I've never seen a problem really with the more major companies. They seem to take care of you a lot faster than the smaller companies do. I've been with the General. It was a joke. I was with that phone app one, whatever it is. It's got like the orange icon. I forget what it's called. I was with them. They are a complete joke. I hate the General. I hated it. I really... No, it's what is the... It's got like the... I forget what it is. It's all phone based. You can't go into a facility. You can't go anywhere. Yeah, I just don't like the General, man. I don't find that the rates were that great. I'm with State Farm now. State Farm has taken care of me better than anybody has. Allstate wanted for both my vehicles, they wanted like $160 some a month, and that was with no rental. There was like a lot of stuff that wasn't there. I went with State Farm. It covered my rental, covered my roadside, covered my full coverage, and it's like $121 a month for both cars. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then when COVID hit, State Farm was like sympathetic to all their people. They left them with the same coverage, and they didn't even go back and charge me anything extra. For like the first 6 months, it was all at half rate. They were actually not half rate, but $50 is what they were taking off. They were taking off $50 every single payment, and I was like, wow, this is awesome that State Farm would do something like that for their customers. But Again, that's just from what I've experienced so far in my life. But what I don't like about this whole situation with this dealership getting involved is, we don't know anything more than that. The internet is disrupting right now. I've seen bad reviews left on Tomball Ford's website. I don't agree with that. I think that's a terrible thing to do. We're not in the middle of what's going on. We don't know the situation exactly. We don't know if that technician was speeding. We don't know if the other person was drunk. We don't know anything. They didn't release a police report to anybody. They didn't do any of that stuff. And here we are. Here we have a whole SJW internet section wanting to attack the dealership. Why? You don't even know what happened. You literally don't even know the entire situation. All you know is the vehicle showed up at the dealership for first oil change. There were some repairs that were done, and the technician went on a test drive. The car got totaled. Somebody pulled out in front of the guy. The police officer wrote the police report up through his investigation as the other driver was completely at fault, and it concurs with what the dealership said. But here we have a lady that I'm not faulting her at all, but she went to the news agency and told them her story, and then they covered it immediately. It was an immediate attack on the dealership, because it seems like the last 2 months, this specific news companies out of Texas and down south have really been targeting dealerships a lot. It's like the old Jiffy Lube stuff, how they used to send people into Jiffy Lube to try to figure out were they scamming people, were they selling things that weren't supposed to be sold. Well, now all of a sudden they've turned the tides, and it's not on Jiffy Lube anymore. Now it's all these news companies and stuff that are going into dealerships, and they're trying to snag as much as they possibly can for like bad dramatized media, and they're selling it. They're putting it out. USAA, somebody asked, is USAA for government workers? I think it's like military. I don't know the whole thing behind it. I know because I was military and I'm a vet. I have a DD-214. They said all they need is just my DD-214, and I could get on immediately. So, and they said, your family, because you're a vet, your family can be part of it, but it has to be something around veteran base. I'm not sure if it's government. Nathan said, I found out yesterday that State Farm sponsors the Road Ranger Interstate Roadside Assistance Program in Florida, which he didn't even know existed. It was super helpful. That's awesome. State Farm and AmFam for the win. Geico, I was with Geico, but my rates were like 2.5 times higher than anybody else. I'll never go back with Geico again. What was the freaking app that, it's like, the app that you can download on your phone that I used. Anyway, it was I forget what it was now. It's an orange icon, and it's super, super popular, and everything is all through phone based. But I had my vehicle stolen, and it was totaled. And the 4 teenage girls that stole my vehicle totaled it in the rain at over 80 miles an hour, snapped the control arms. Like all 4 control arms snapped underneath the vehicle. The engine was shifted from where it was normally sitting all the way over into the passenger wheel and then back into the firewall. All of the doors where they closed at the top of the vehicle were crinkled all the way down, and everything was pivoted out at the top. And the 2 girls on the front, from the police report, it wasn't insurance, I forget what it is. It's going to come to me eventually. No, it wasn't insurance. It was... It's some really simple name. It's not a long name like that. It's just like... No. Root. There it is right there. Nicholas got it. Root. Root Insurance. That's the one. I tried Root Insurance, and I was like, oh, this is great. I can do everything from my phone. And it seems like it's a huge insurance company because everybody's starting to use it all across like the internet database and stuff. So I went with Root. So I had my vehicle totaled, and it's just they wouldn't call back. They take like weeks and weeks to get back to you, and then when they want to put you in a rental car, they don't want to pay for the rental car even though you're paying for the insurance. And then they want to pay. They left me with like $8,000 left to pay on the car, even though I had gap and the insurance was supposed to cover it. There was something that fell apart between the insurance company and my loan company, and I was like, man, this is hell. How did these people get away with this stuff? They promise you and they say they're going to do all this stuff, but then when it actually comes out that they're going to do it, they're trying to nickel and dime you. They're trying to sweep stuff under the rug and say it's your fault. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not ever going to go back with another internet-based, app-based, or whatever the heck it is, insurance company again. It's never going to happen. It's a complete scam to me. I'm going to go with a name brand, USAA, Allstate, State Farm, somebody like this, and that's just going to be it from now on. And sure enough, State Farm, after all this time, they've been absolutely fabulous. I'm using Liberty. Yeah, Liberty Mutual, another good one. Big names, big name insurance companies. They've already made their money. They've already made their name. But to me, honestly, it seems like the faster service from Allstate, State Farm, people like that, they respond faster. They don't want bad PR and stuff out there, so they just take care of people right away. I've never seen a big insurance company, like big name company, really make people wait all that long. Hey, what's going on? From the Ford dealer parts department. But I just think this whole thing with Tomball Ford, it's unfortunate for them, because they weren't trying to do the wrong thing. They actually came out of pocket. They gave up one of their vehicles for a while. I don't blame them. I don't think what they did was wrong by saying that we're not paying the 30%. If the police report says the technician wasn't at fault and the insurance company hasn't had enough time to do a full investigation, which it all is going to come back to the police report anyway, I don't understand why the dealership's being charged 30%. And I don't understand why Texas allows this proportional law to really affect people like that. If the police report says that they didn't find the driver at fault at all, well, the driver's not at fault until some kind of investigation is done or some kind of private, court matter is put in place. Allstate should fess up. Allstate should pay for the lady's vehicle, and then they get underway. If Allstate has any problems with it in the future, then they take it, further from there. But the thing is, get the lady back on the road. It was the person that turned out in front of the technician while he was on the test drive. We don't know what the test drive was for, but that's irrelevant. It was the other person that was at fault. That's what the police report said, the other person was at fault. Allstate needs to come out of pocket for that. That is literally not a dealership issue. Now, the dealership could mitigate some of this and say, you know what, we're going to fess up the 30%. We're going to match. We're going to go ahead and give the money to Allstate, the 70%, put the lady in the vehicle, but then my attorney will be seeing you, and then you guys can take care of that privately, and we're going to get our money back. There's multiple ways it could be addressed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right way to do it. It might be an easy way to do it. Or just like the attorney said that was speaking about the case, it may just be easier for this lady to say, you know what, I'm not going to go through any of this right now. Just let my insurance company handle it, and then I'll get in the vehicle, and then we'll figure out from there where everything needs to go. If the dealership wasn't at fault, the dealership wasn't at fault. I mean, it's just, I don't understand how people could be mad at Tomball Ford because of that. They still put the lady in a vehicle. The technician, was found he wasn't at fault for anything. I don't get it. I've seen so many stupid things happen while on test drives with customers' cars after major repairs, and people just don't care. It's like that at that point when you're driving a customer's vehicle and you're going down the road, you're like looking for everything. You're trying to be focused on your repair, and you're trying to focus on whatever you fixed or a sound that you're listening for when you're on a test drive. But man, that could happen at any time. Anybody can pull out in front of you while you're driving, just like your own vehicle. Now you're in their vehicle. It's that's why you have insurance on your technicians and the business. If they were at fault, it gets taken care of because they were at fault. But if the other person was at fault, that's why they have insurance for things to get taken care of. Nicholas said, I was in an accident where a guy ran a red light on a suspended license and allowed to drive away. Makes no sense. You know, and I'll tell you about a situation that happened to me, and this is going to be this is good and bad, and it's going to upset some of you guys whenever I give you my honest opinion about this. You guys know I'm pro USA, I'm pro Made in America, I'm pro our veterans. I'm a veteran. OIF 0709. I spent 15 months over in Iraq, and I was in the military just shy of 5 years. I got hurt. Both my knees are damaged, multiple surgeries and stuff. Um, I love our police officers, and I'll do anything to protect our police officers, but some police officers are just downright wrong. Some police officers do abuse the system. Some of them are not good cops like everybody thinks, but I think the media has such an impact on the damage that's being done to our law enforcement. They're just destroying their image, and it's senseless. Everybody in every workplace has some kind of bad egg. But this situation, my aunt had to come to the rescue to straighten the police officers out. I was getting out of the military. I always wanted a Fox body Mustang. I bought a 1993 Mustang LX notchback. Original owner, 62,000 miles. Had one little spot, one little tiny paint chip right in the hood that I was getting fixed the following weekend. Mass airflow, cold air intake, exhaust, $3,000 Clarion sound system. I had the radio company go through the whole entire car and set everything up. I didn't want just subs in a deck. I wanted tweeters, speakers, deck lids, everything. I wanted everything taken care of. This car was cherry. It was my cruiser, man. I love this car. It was absolutely phenomenal. I'm going down the road. At the time I was married, pick up my wife from Sonic. She was working at Sonic as a part-time job. I had a bunch of money put away from what I call my war money. You get you get overseas pay, hazardous duty pay. You get all this pay in the military, plus your base pay. And then when you're over in a war zone, you have nowhere to spend it unless you're spending it on like stuff at the local PX or bootleg movies or something like that, which I bought a lot of for $1 a piece. And then you get to a spot where you can't spend anything unless you're doing everything on the internet. So what I ended up doing was I would save my money, and I had like $70-some thousand saved up just from deployment and all the extra hazard pay and stuff for being over there. And when I came home, I bought that car. And they fixed me, they did my knees and stuff like that, and then they realized I was having some PTSD problems, and then I tried to fight to stay in the military. I went down to the JAG, the Judge Advocate General, and I asked to speak to the Master Sergeant that was in charge of like the kind of coordinating department and stuff like that, and then they actually put me in with a lawyer, and they wanted to put me out of the military just shy of 5 years, and I said, I can't do this, man. I want to stay in. It's easy. It's easy, It's the job I've always wanted. I love it. Take care, Kurt. Thanks for stopping by. So they couldn't keep me in. They were like, look, it's cost effective or whatever at this point. Like, you're both knees, you're damaged, you're showing signs of PTSD and stuff already. You got to go. So they put me out. I buy this car. My wife's at work. I'm cruising down the road at about 43 miles an hour. It's a 45. It's a Saturday afternoon. Nothing going on. Super, super calm in a small town down in Arkansas. I was living down there while I was going to college. I was going to body school. I went to body school for 14, 15 months. It was Black River Technical College is where I went. I'm cruising, and there's 2 lanes here. There's a Walmart on the side with a little Mexican restaurant in front of it. You know how they put like the little restaurants and stuff in the corner of the lots? And there's 2 lanes here, and then there's a turn lane at this light that goes into a McDonald's, and it's a really, really weird turn to get into this McDonald's. There's a guy coming from oncoming traffic, and he's trying to turn into that little Mexican restaurant, but he don't want to drive all the way down to the turn lane to get into the Walmart parking lot and come up on the backside. And I'm in this lane here, and I'm cruising. This guy decides he wants to turn through the left turning lane into McDonald's, and he wants to go right into the parking lot. He don't want to go all the way down and go like you're supposed to. He cuts over a double yellow line through 2 cars in the turning lane that left him enough gap right in front of me. I lock up the brakes, I pull the e-brake, I slide the car sideways, I'm trying to come around this truck, but as I come around this truck, he's got a trailer attached to it as he's turning through the illegal turn lane, over the double yellow line. I barely clip the back of this trailer, smash the front of my radiator support and stuff in. I pull over in the parking lot right there immediately at the Mexican restaurant. He finishes, pulls in there. The cops come. The cops are like, they know this guy. One of the police officers that showed up was family to this guy. So can you imagine what's going on now? I'm the one that was driving innocently under the speed limit, and this dude pulls out in front of me, makes an illegal left turn over a double yellow line, pull up in the parking lot, and the police officers are literally yelling at me. They're telling me it's my fault, I'm the one that caused the accident, I must have been speeding or something like that. And I was like, dude, are you freaking kidding me? Do you not know the law? Do you not know how to do your job? That is a double yellow line right there. The guy made a left turn over a double yellow line through a left turning lane going into the McDonald's. He shouldn't have even turned right there. He should have drove down the road to the entrance of Walmart and came through the parking lot like he was supposed to. And they're like, oh, it's your fault. And they're writing this stuff down. The police officer's being a complete jerk to me. The other cop is standing on the other side with his hands on his hip like he's some kind of authoritative figure. And I'm like, man, this is bull. I pick up the phone. I call my aunt. I was like, you know, can you come down here right now? My aunt comes down to the Mexican restaurant. She knows everybody in that town. I mean, everybody in this town knows her and knows her name. She's a bail bondsman. She goes and bails all these people out of jail and stuff, and they got to keep track of them, right? So she says, I'm on my way right now, baby. I'm headed down there right now. So she jumps in the car and she comes down to the Mexican restaurant. She parks in there, and she's looking at the police officer, and she calls him out by name, and she said, what are you doing? And he looked at her and was like, writing this man a ticket right here, and you know, he just caused an accident. And she said, what do you mean he caused an accident? Well, so and so over here was making a left turn right here through this turn lane, and she was like, stop right now, we're all family, what are you doing? That's my nephew right there, and you're trying to give him a ticket for this man that made a left turn through a turning lane into a parking lot, knowing damn well that's a double yellow line right there. And you're going to give my cousin, listen to this story, it gets crazy. So my cousin is the one that hit my nephew, and I'm family with you, the police officer, and you're going to be a dirty cop? Just because you don't know that this kid is also my family? This is my nephew right here, and you're going to throw him under the bus because you're trying to stick up for your family member and write him the ticket. The cop was her cousin. The guy that pulled out in front of me was her cousin, and none of them knew me. I was a nephew that never came around for family gatherings and stuff like that. And she said, you guys got to stop doing it. She just tore them up right there in that parking lot. Tore those police officers up, tore her cousin up, and everything else, and said, Rich, get in the car and go to the house and wait for me. We're going to sort all this out right now. This is not right what they're doing here. They should not be doing this. And when she came back to the house, the police officers actually came over to the house, and they gave me the paperwork and stuff like that and said, we're sorry, we understand what happened now, we didn't understand before. And I said, dude, I was like literally doing nothing. I was going under the speed limit in my lane. Dude turned out in front of me where he shouldn't have turned, and y'all are trying to write me a ticket. And he was like, yeah, it's not a good, I get it, we didn't understand what happened before. And I told him, I said, that's just your excuse. You're writing me a ticket because that was your family member, and you didn't know I was also kin to you guys. You shouldn't be doing stuff like that. That's dirty cop doings. You should not do stuff like that. You could have really hurt my life and my reputation in this town trying to live here because of stupid stuff like this. This is that good old boy system that we hear about. So I've experienced this type of stuff that people often, you know, they either turn an eye to it or not. There's that good old boy system. My aunt had to literally tell the police officers how to do their job, and they're all family members. And she tore them up right there in front of the people going into the Mexican restaurant and everything, yelling, screaming at them. This is not how you do your job. This is not how you treat people right. Do your job the right way. So I've dealt with this stuff before where, you know, having to deal with insurance companies and dirty cops filling out, you know, police reports and stuff like that based on family members and stuff that are involved. I've dealt with all that stuff. I know the system is not perfect. I don't necessarily ever 100% say people in professions just because, um, just because they're in some kind of authoritative type figure that they're 100% correct, because that's not the case. So that's my crazy story. It was going to be put on me. I was going to have to pay for no damage done to his trailer at all and everything to mine. And it was just a little town in Arkansas. That's why I don't necessarily like living in little towns. I like it because of how peaceful it is, but I don't like it because everybody knows everybody and it's the good old boy system. And it literally, for you, I'll tell you something right now. This is how crazy the situation is. Living in these little towns are a little crazy. It can either be a blessing or it can be a disaster. The day I was moving into town, I had stopped off at the AutoZone because I realized my light was out. My driver's side headlight was out, and I got a headlight. And I had the receipt and everything on the dash, but I was only 2 blocks from my house where I was moving in. As I'm pulling through town, police officer pulls me over. Your headlight's out. I said, yes, officer, I got it right here. I got the light right here. I noticed right down the road, it just kind of went out on me, and I'm only 2 blocks from my house right here. Here's the receipt and everything. I literally just bought it. It just went out. Like, there's a timestamp and everything on the receipt. It's not even like I can lie about this. And he says, I'll have to give you a ticket for it. I said, you mean give me a ticket for it? I'm just moving to town. My house is 2 blocks away. There's a timestamp on the receipt that says I just bought this thing because it just went out. They held me up on the side of the road for 45 minutes because of a headlight before the police officer, before I mentioned my aunt's name. Once I mentioned my aunt's name, they were like, okay, have a nice day. Please get the light fixed. Are you serious? Are you freaking serious? 45 minutes on the side of the road for a headlight, and all I had to do was just say my aunt's name, and they knew exactly who she was and let me go. That's why I don't get involved with a lot of the whole good cop, bad cop stuff, because there's just as many bad cops as there are good ones. Well, no, they're not. I can't say that. There's a handful of bad cops that make the good cops look bad, is what I should say. So I've dealt with that before. I've dealt with all that kind of crazy stuff before. I've been slammed up against the back of a cop car. I drive to work every single day, going to Hertz, and 10 mile an hour over the speed limit. I'm doing 80 and a 70, 75 and a 65. I drive fast. I'm not gonna lie, I drive fast, but I try to drive fast and I drive safe. I drive closer to the speed limit, 5-10 mile an hour over, but that's fast to me because I'm actually breaking the law. I know that. I know I could get a ticket, but I take a chance because I'm sensible about it. And me and this cop would get on the interstate at the same time every day. He would be coming from his home going to work, and I would be coming from my home going to work. And we would all do about 10 mile an hour over the speed limit. He's in his cruiser, state police officer, and I'm in my car. Make a long story short, we did this for months. I don't know if this guy was just having a bad day or not, but he started to slow down. He was going about 8 mile an hour over the speed limit. I'm passing this guy anyway. I do 10. I'm not going to slow down. We travel the same route, almost next to each other a lot of times, going the same, 12-mile stretch before I would get off and he would keep going. And just cruise right next to each other on the interstate. Well, one day I think he was having a bad day. I don't know what it was, because he slowed down a little bit, got behind me. I kept going 10 mile an hour over, and all of a sudden he flips on his lights, pulls me over on the side of the highway, and I was like, what the hell is the problem? And the guy was like, well, you were speeding. And I said, so were you. And he said, yeah, but I'm giving you the leeway to speed. Why would you speed past me? You slowed down. I was going the same speed as you. You literally slowed down. Well, you should have slowed down too. Well, hey, Dad, I do this every day with you. We've done this for months. Me and you almost cruising next to each other all the way down the interstate every freaking day. But now because you're having a bad day, I gotta have a bad day? Give me the ticket and let me go. And the guy says, well, you're being an awful jerk and all this other. I said, well, it's because, dude, I mean, you can't just pick and choose when you want to be a cop. If you're going to be a cop, be a cop. But if you're just going to harass people just to harass people, I got a problem with that. And the guy says, you know, something to the extent of, you're really being a prick and all this other stuff, and just get out of the car. I was like, what do you mean get out of the car? Give me a ticket. Give me the ticket. Let me go. It just seems like you're on this power struggle right now. It's a power trip. It ain't gonna work. Well, get out of the car. I get out of the car. At this point, it's not like a professional get out of the car. It's more like a personal thing with this guy now. I get out of the car. Put your hands up against the car. I put my hands up against the car. He searched me and everything. He finds I don't have anything. I'm not doing anything wrong. And pushing me in my shoulders like kind of hard in the back of the car. And I told him, I said, dude, I ain't about all this shit right now. You messing with the wrong guy. I'm not Joe Schmo, or I'm not Timmy from down the block or something like that. You handle me fine, and I'll be on my way. But you start doing all this shit, it's going to be a bad day for you, because I don't play all that. I comply and do everything, but you start getting rough with me, and I'll put your ass on the ground. I don't care who you are. There's a certain level of respect that you have when you're dealing with another man. And dude all of a sudden chilled out. I'm not playing this game with you. I will do whatever you tell me to do, but I will not play this game with you. And the guy almost looks at me like he's dazed, like I would push back or something like that. Gives me the ticket anyway. Literally, still hands me the ticket anyway. I got a CDL. I have a CDL-B. And I was a diesel mechanic at the time, so I had to have a CDL. A month later, I go to court. I hire a lawyer here locally. The lawyer says, yeah, I'll be there at this time. This is how corrupt the damn system is. I go to court, and I'm sitting there. Where's my lawyer? I don't see my lawyer anywhere. Lawyer never shows up, never comes to the court case. Then right at the last second, they call my name, and there's no lawyer. Then all of a sudden, this guy barges in the door and says, Judge, I'm here, Judge, I'm here, Judge, I'm here. It's like something out of a damn My Cousin Vinny movie. Judge, I'm here, Judge. He walks right up there, goes and stands with the state's attorney. Oh yeah, this guy's got money. He's got a CDL and everything. Back and forth, they're whispering back and forth. And all of a sudden, the lawyer comes back to me and says, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to hit you with an equipment violation, not a speeding ticket, because a speeding ticket is really going to leave a bad mark on your CDL, your record. We're going to hit you with an equipment violation, say something about a muffler or something like that, and we're going to let you go so you don't get no mark. I said, well, I just paid you $300 for your fees, and what is an equipment violation? It's like, $200 or whatever, no marks on your CDL. I said, whatever, dude, just find the best way to get me out of this and let me go. So he says, okay, it's the $200 for the ticket or whatever it is, the $300 that you have to pay me the lawyer fee, and that's basically, he left it at that. You'll be out of pocket about $500-600. This is okay. I need to go to work. So I grabbed my stuff. They agreed on everything. The judge agreed, or state's attorney, everybody else. Whatever the hell they did, they agreed. They gave me this paperwork, said go over there to the clerk or the cashier and go cash out. I go over there, I'm standing in line. And then I go to another station, and another station, another station. Finally, I get to this lady to pay my money. And they says, it'll be $1,244. And I said, $1,200 and what, my ass? What are you talking about? I'd rather just pay the damn speeding ticket. I don't use the damn CDL anyway. It's only when I go on test drives. I'd rather just pay the damn speeding ticket. Well, I just paid the lawyer $300. There's supposed to be a $200 equipment violation. Yeah, but there's a clerk fee and an attorney fee or this court fee and all this other stuff. And then, are you freaking kidding me? I would have rather just went and paid the $250 for the ticket and taken a mark on my record and then not messed up again for years than pay all this money for I don't even use the CDL. I fix the bus and I drive it down the road and come back. At that point, I would have just let the damn CDL go, because the company went out of business after that anyway. The whole system is freaking rigged. From start to finish, the whole system is rigged. How do you go from paying a lawyer $300, a $200 equipment violation, and then you're leaving almost $1,300 by the time everything's cashed out, just to not get a damn mark on your CDL? Fuck that CDL, man. I don't understand. The system is completely rigged against us. I was upset. Then I called the lawyer up. Listen to this. He's so embarrassed. I called the lawyer up afterwards, and I chewed his ass out. I mean, you mean to tell me $300 $300. It's $1,300. Are you fucking kidding? I'm on the phone like yelling at this guy, right? And he says, okay. Yeah, I know. I wasn't right. It was kind of dirty. And he's telling me this stuff. It was kind of dirty. I get it. But the next time you get in trouble, just call me up and I'll represent you for free. I know. I'm sorry. So you know the whole thing was set up from start to finish. And you know that you overcharged me for everything, and you knew that I was going to spend more than $500 I was supposed to. So now I'm sorry, and I caught you, and I'm calling you out on it, and the next time you're going to represent me for free. Why? Because you're going to be at the courthouse while you're screwing other people over in the meantime anyway, jumping around from all their cases. Oh my God. Yeah, it won't cost him anything to come represent me for free because he can walk in late. So since then, I've never been in trouble again. I've just made it my mission to never get pulled over by a police officer again. Don't do anything wrong. Yeah, I paid the fine. I paid the whole $1,200 and something, whatever it is. Ridiculous. I'm going through the comments right now. Just going back, guys, looking at the comments to see if I mean, I have plenty of stories. Everybody thinks that when they come here, they're like, oh, you're just a bootlicker and stuff. No, I have plenty of stories where I've been done wrong. It's not the case at all. I'm kind of more of a constitutionalist, so I'm just as much for as I am against. I think people deserve a certain amount of rights, and they're born with a certain amount of rights, and that's just how it is. I think there's a lot of bad things that are done to people that should not be done to people, and I think there's a lot of good people out there as well. It's just there's enough bad people to really cause the good people to look bad, just like the dealerships. You guys tell me all the time, this happened to me, this dealer ripped me off, that dealer ripped me off, and I think to myself, there definitely is bad. Dealerships are not innocent. Independent shops are not innocent. Your friend down the street that has been in both independent and dealers are probably, that's the most dangerous part, and this is where I try to teach people this. If you know a guy that's been working in an independent shop, you know a guy that's been around the dealership business for a while, and then all of a sudden he doesn't work for any of them and he just privately works for himself, that's a dangerous dude right there. Because he knows the business of all sides. That's a dangerous dude. He can either make you or he could break you. And there's nothing to protect you. There's nothing to protect you from dealing with a person like that. That's you physically dealing with things, if you know what I mean. In a situation like that, you don't have insurance protections. You don't have anything, well, you said this paperwork. It don't work. That dude could either make you or break you. I'm just saying, and that's all I want to say about that. But I had another incident happen to me where I was, my first day leaving my home to go down to the military. And I get down into Louisiana. I'm in one of them little good old boy towns, right? And you come around the curve. I don't know if I could reference this here. You start to come around the curve, and in the curve on the other side of the road, there's a sign where it changes from 45 to 35 mile an hour. And I come around that curve. So let's say the curve is right here. I'm coming around that curve, and as I get to the other side, the speed sign is in the damn curve, just on the other side of it as you crest it. And I hurry up and I try to slow down. Police officer sitting right behind the trees, behind that sign, flips on his lights, follows me down the road about a block, pulls me over on a side street. He said, you know you're going kind of fast right there. I said, well, I know I have 500 feet in the state where I'm from to slow down, so you gave me a ticket kind of quick there. And he said, well, that ain't how it is here. And I said, I bet you there's some kind of buffer zone that I definitely slowed down in enough time. And he says, are you a lawyer or something like that or whatever? And I said, no, I just know what certain laws are and stuff like that. I have friends that are cops in different states, and there is a certain amount of time that you have to slow down after you hit that speed sign. It's not just immediately 35 mile an hour. If that was the case, we'd be in accidents all down the damn road. And he said, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to my car, got your information, stuff, I'll come back. So he sits in his car for about 10-15 minutes, and he comes back and he says, here's a $25 seatbelt ticket, have a nice day. How did we just go from the speeding to a seatbelt ticket? Because I've referenced that I know there's a certain amount of time that you get to slow down after the speed limit sign. I mean, I've dealt with it. I've dealt with it. Trust me. I paid the $25 just so I didn't have to pay a speeding fine, but it's... And a lot of people say that there's no such thing as a quota. They say that just like Kenny... Did I say Kenny? Did I say it right? I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah, like Kenny said, quota. A lot of people think that there's no quota. There is a quota. There absolutely is. That's a lie. When I was out on a trip with an auto body school, and my instructor brought his brother with because his brother is a cop, and his brother's an active cop, and he took the day off so he can go chaperone a school trip with a bunch of men going out to the Kentucky Corvette plant. And I'm talking to this police officer, and I was like, so what do you think about this whole quota thing, you know, that people say? And he was like, it's not really true. Well, this guy don't know me from Adam, right? All these years later, my friend here, my friend David, he ends up, he's like a brother to me. He ends up becoming a cop in Elk Grove, Illinois. And David is having a rough time there because David, he really loves his job. He loves serving and protecting the community. And the stories that I got to hear from David about what actually happens is unreal. And there is a quota. There 100% is a quota. Let's just leave it at that. You have to really be patrolling your community. It's not like they want you to go out there and force people into making mistakes. They don't want you to be lazy on the job. There's so many people on the road that are doing wrong things, and you already know this is true. There's so many people on the road doing wrong things. As a police officer, if you're patrolling and you're moving around and you're in the community like you're gonna see people that are automatic, that you're gonna see. Obviously, this guy's going 10 mile an hour in his school zone. He's flying 35 or 30 in a 20. You pull that guy over. It's a hazard to our kids. It's a hazard to our community and stuff, right? And especially on the small streets. Or people blowing red lights and stuff. That happens every single day. I don't even have to be a police officer, and just leaving to go to work in the morning, I see it happen. It's nonstop. So it's not like we're trying to... You can do your job and not just attack people. So, you know, it was always easy for David because David was in a community where there was a lot of people and stuff like that. And he said there is quotas because they know people, even police officers can get lazy. So it's not so much just to go attack people and pull people over. It's also to hold the officer accountable too. If he's doing his job, statistically, this is what it would take to pull this many people over in an 8-hour shift. You're going to see somebody doing something legitimately wrong. Or are you just being lazy, sitting off on a side road in a parking lot somewhere, or stopping off at Walmart every 10 minutes? You're going to do your job. So it's multiple things. It's not just... The quota is not just to make people, to make police officers pull people over aimlessly. It's actually to hold them accountable as well. There are so many people on the road doing the wrong thing that this is about what you would pull over in an 8-hour shift. Does that mean they have to hit that number? No, they don't. If there's nobody doing anything wrong, nobody doing anything wrong. But this is what you should statistically be able to find in a given amount of time with the amount of people on the road. It is what it is. Why would the heater turn off only when it's cold, like below zero? Other times when the temperature is warm, out, the heater stays on. Battery is brand new. When it's cold, it turns off. Sounds to me, well, the 2008 to 2012 Ford Fusion had a problem with the HVAC control head. There's a reprogram available for that. You can reprogram the HVAC module. And the squirrels over here fighting with each other. I mean, these two are about to tear each other up. Where the heck's that guy at? I mean, this one was screaming, the other one jumped on him and attacked him. I don't know if he's hurt or what. Anyway. These squirrels here are bad. I mean, they'll almost jump. They'll jump at you if you get too close to them. I think it's like the Chicago squirrels moved out to the suburbs, and they're trying to claim their territory. So back to the 2009 Fusion, I can't specifically state why it would just turn off when it's cold, other than maybe the blow. I would think that maybe you have an HVAC reprogram available, or the blower motor resistor, or the blower motor is the issue. Because if you're running the heat all the time, constantly, and you're really working that blower motor resistor, what ends up happening is that thing will start to act up. Maybe when it gets super hot, when you're running the heat consistently, it'll break contact. It might be compromised. The integrity of it might be bad, or you might have a blower motor itself, which tells me that if it's hot and the fan's working, which you're not going to run the fan that long anyway, you're just going to, for testing purposes, turn it on and see that it doesn't run long enough to get hot and cause issues inside that blower motor resistor. So the fan itself is probably not it. I would look towards the blower motor resistor is what I would do. Bought a 91 F350 Super Cab dually with a 7.3 IDI, non-turbo, anything I should know. Great vehicle. Run that sucker. Liking the Mac box. I love that Mac box. That Mac box is huge. So last night people were saying that, there was a couple people that said, well, that's like my my 74 something or 75. That's not what this box is. This box is it's a custom box. It's different. The guy that bought it ended up backing out on the deal, and then I ended up getting it for a deal. I'm not going to go into how much money it was, but it's a nice box. It was a really, really, really good box. Deep, 75 inches long. You could lay on top of it. Make babies on top of the box, and it's very wide, very long. The drawers, I like how the drawers go all the way across at the top instead of stopping 3/4. Pull like a pillow and a blanket and stuff on top of it and take a nap during the middle of the day. It's a big box. I guess somebody said there's a different type of box as well. It's called a Goliath. I have never seen that, but I could only imagine. 2000 F250 7.3. Power Stroke has 250,000 miles. Plan to give it a second life where I hope. I love those, man. That's my favorite diesel motor, is that 7.3. I just absolutely love it. Rev up your engines. I had a good commenter, a good subscriber here that's been here for a long time, and he recently popped up and started. I thought he was pretty cool. I thought he was going to be one of the guys on the channel that we just all joke around with and kind of poke and pick at each other and stuff like that. But I think he drank too much Kilmer Kool-Aid, because dude popped up out of nowhere when he watched one of my videos where I was critiquing him, and he just kind of went batshit crazy on me. It's like, you know, Scotty's an old man and all this other stuff, and it's wrong for you to the Kilmer Kool-Aid. The Kilmer Kool-Aid. Is it heavy to move around fully loaded? It is. It definitely is. So when I was a kid, I always liked being around semi-trucks. Anytime my uncle would come in town, he had a stub-nose Pete. It was a lime green, or like a M&M green stub-nose Pete, and he had like a matching trailer. And I lived down south in Mount Vernon, Illinois, in a little country town out in the middle of nowhere. And there was nobody that really lived around us. And as a kid, I would see him pull up in this big green stub-nose Pete. And I would get all excited, you know, kind of wiggle butt like the pit bulls do. I'd wiggle and dance around and shake my hands up in the air. My uncle came with the truck, and I wanted to go for a ride, and he'd go grab me and he'd put me in that truck, and he'd drive me around town in that truck, you know, kind of out in the country, not in town where it would, you know, where the trucks weren't supposed to be. And then we'd come back. And anytime he was at the house on the weekend, he'd always be under the hood of this thing wrenching. And I was like, you know, I wonder, as I got older, I wonder if that's something that I would be good at. And then I started seeing pictures and stuff with me with my grandpa. My grandpa would put me on the hood of an old Nova or an old Chevelle or an old Oldsmobile Starfire or something like that, or an old Thunderbird. And I'd see all these pictures with me sitting on the hood of these cars. And I'd be sitting there watching him while he's wrenching, you know, tuning carburetors or, you know, pulling plugs, whatever it may be. And Grandpa had his own little garage. He would work out of his own little garage. And I'd see all these cars that he'd work on, and I'm in all these pictures with him, and he'd carry me everywhere. And my mom told me that you were his little prince, because everywhere he went, whether it was poker games, they're smoking cigars in a room, you're sitting right there next to him through all of it, smoking the cigars and them gambling and stuff like that, or you'd be on the front of the hood of the car or something like that while he was working, or you just always with Grandpa everywhere he went. Grandpa, 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 Grandpa. That's all it was. And I was always asking when I was going to get to go see Grandpa. Well, she said he was a mechanic, and then your uncle, he mechanicked on his own trucks. He bought his own trucks and was a truck driver. He didn't let nobody touch his trucks. He did everything himself. And then as, you know, you got older, you're messing with things and taking things apart. It just became natural. It's just something that you've seen and you just adapted to. And now here I am all these years later. You know, the knowledge has changed. A lot of the old school stuff that I grew up with, obviously it ain't the same anymore. And you know, a lot of stuff guys used to do back in the day wasn't necessarily the correct way to do it, that they found out years later they were doing wrong. For instance, I was building a Ford's 355, a small block 355, and I had a 4-bolt main 350. I was putting in a 84 C10, and I sent it off to rotisserie it. And I sent the truck off, and it got walnut blasted in Strawberry, Arkansas. Got the truck finished, got it back, got it all primed, etched, painted 2009 GMC Storm Gray. The truck was gorgeous. Airbag suspension, Ford 9-inch Mickey Thompson slicks, 200 shot, and Ford's 355. It made 650 horse, and had Edelbrock East Street heads with upgraded valve springs to make it like an RPM, like a performer head. And we're building this motor out front of the house. My uncle's still old school, right? My uncle says, man, go out there and get that bucket. Get that bucket. Put that mobile oil down in there. Just dump it full of mobile oil. I go out there and get that bucket. And he says, take all them crank bearings and put down in that oil. Just let it sit down in that oil. Okay, let the crank bearings sit down in the oil. I don't understand why I'm doing this. I mean, it's just. And he says, man, just let them crank bearings sit down in that oil. It'll be fine. We'll get to it tomorrow. So I got the engine on a stand. It's all covered up. The next day we go out there, and he flips the engine over on the stand, and we grab this Eagle crank that I had, and he starts pressing in these crank bearings. And I was like, why are you putting lubricated crank bearings in a dry block? Well, that's just how I do it. I've always done it that way. I ain't gonna change how I do it now. Well, I could have swore you don't put the mating side of a crank bearing into a crosshatch surface with lubricant on it. That's a no-no. That's an easy way to spin a bearing. You want to put it in clean and dry so the back half of that crank bearing matches with that scoring that's naturally in that bore. You don't put it in there lubricated. Hey man, I knew better. I shut my mouth and just go along with it, right? Never spun a bearing. Never, ever, ever spun a bearing. But I think to myself, how many bearings that he talked about spinning over the years by doing stuff like that? You don't do that. You don't install crank bearings or you don't put a crank bearing in the journal. On the backside, it needs to be clean. It's got a natural crosshatch to it that the backside of that bearing, when you press it down in there, and then you put your crank in, and then you put, I'm trying to read these comments. But anyway, when you press everything together, those bearings mate into that crosshatch. The side that gets lubricated is on the crank side. And it started to make sense to me now why so many motors had failed on him in the past, because a lot of the old school guys would do stuff like that. And maybe it wouldn't, maybe, they didn't come up to speed eventually. But I thought that was always a common thing in the industry, where things that need to mate, they don't get lubricated. Because when you lubricate surfaces that need to mate into the crosshatch, you're just asking for problems. That's how some of those old school guys did it. They found their own way to do it, and they just did it. Now, regardless if they had to pull the motor apart 2 or 3 times to get it right, they'd still do it. It didn't matter. On a weekend, you could have the motor apart, rebuilt, put back together, valve springs, all the cylinder head job done and everything else. Now you can't do that no more. There's just so much going on with so much stuff that has to be taken apart. When I pull apart these motors, it's absolutely crazy, all the stuff that, how things have changed with electronics and technology and high pressure fuel. And going back to reading the comments. Dropped off a truck at the dealership for some work. Came back to pick it up. Had a huge dent in the side of the box. They said it wasn't their fault. Nothing they could do or would do to fix it. Now I take pictures with timestamp before I leave the dealership. Well, the dealership should be doing that anyway. How do I feel about GDI? I think if you're good, I think it should be mandated. It should be a government type thing. I don't care, if people like what I have to say about that or not. That from start to finish, if you're going to build a GDI engine, it needs to have port injection accompanying it. Even if it's just little tiny small port injectors, it needs to have something there accompanying it. GDI engines are great. They make great power. They're very efficient and stuff when it comes to making power, but it's not a very clean motor. They're very dirty motors. So if I hope all of them do it now. With Ford going to the direct and port injection, I hope everybody does that. I know some manufacturers have been doing that for years. I think Toyota started doing that a couple years ago or something, where they were using direct and port injection to keep the valves and stuff clean. But GDI engines overall, I don't see a problem with them. There's no way to really keep them clean, if you know what I mean. There's no way to really make sure you're protecting the valves and stuff like that. And I think from new, if you got a GDI engine from new, and let's just say every 6 months, I know this is being a little, this is too much, But every 6 months, run an induction cleaner through that to clean off those valves. Really, if it was me, I'd be pulling the map sensor on my GDI motor every week and giving it a little, shot of some kind of cleaner to run through there and keep them valves clean, if that was my car. Now, I can't speak for everybody because I'm not telling everybody to do that, but I would do a every 3 to 6 month periodic cleaning to keep those valves clean so you don't screw anything up. You put 60,000 miles on it, it already looks like it has 400,000 miles on the valves, and then you try to run an induction cleaner through there and you start pushing stuff off into the cylinders and into the turbo, the cat. People wait too long, and the manufacturers don't tell people if you do that, if you start that cleaning up front, you don't have those issues. Yeah, I knew Toyota started it previously. I didn't know exactly when they did it. I think there's a couple manufacturers that actually started the whole dual setup, and it works well. Look at the one I just did. Most of the EcoBoost engines I pull apart, the small ones, the small bore, and then even some of the V6s, the valves look like crap. But now the new 2020 Explorer, the 3.3 hybrid, when I pulled the intake manifold off of that to do the port and direct injection because it was flooding on startup, those valves were super clean, and it had 20,000 miles on it, and I was like, man, this is what I'm talking about. This is what we should be doing. Port and direct injection, and those valves were spotless. It works. R1234YF, I think it's I have to stop myself sometimes what I really want to say and think about it for a second, because it could really get me in trouble. Let's just say R1234YF is it's a new product, and do I really open it up or do I not open it up? I think the reason that a lot of them come out with these new refrigerants the reason they do it is to try to keep the industry changing and to try to keep more money being funneled into certain parts of the industry. I think the reason that a lot of people do stuff like that is when they go from 22 to 134 to R1234. They change things because they want new shops buying tools, they want the shops buying machines, they want everything to be constantly stimulated in the industry when it comes to that stuff. The EPA gets way too involved. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with it. I can't really say exactly what I want to say, but yeah, it's expensive stuff. It's $11.18 or $11.28 an ounce or something like that, where I can get R134 for 50 cents to $1 an ounce, but they want $11 and some change for 1234. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So this whole comment on R1234 uses a lot less refrigerant than R134. I don't find that at all. All the newer Expeditions, all of the F-150s, I don't find that to be symmetrical at all. I just put 30 some ounces in one vehicle. There was an Expedition that came in, I had to put 40 some ounces in it with the rear HVAC system. I find that maybe that might be a personal thing that you've seen, but I don't think that it uses less just because, I mean, what are we talking about using less in? That's not my experience, is that it uses less. I think it's, to me, using R1234 and R134, it's almost about the same amount from what I've experienced so far. Well, we just had to, my girlfriend's dad, he just had to take his Chevy back to the dealership because it's having oxygen sensor issues, it's having suspension issues with this thing, and he took it back and spent another $775 or something like that because both upstream oxygen sensors went out. Problems with the suspension, can't keep a set of toe links in the thing to save his life, or sway bar links to save his life, and he's like, I don't know. I mean, it's been a great vehicle overall, but it's just nitpicking stuff, little small things over and over and over again. I don't know. I think Zephyrus, am I saying it right? Zephyrus? I think it's about the same, to be honest with you, and I use this stuff all the time. It's just super expensive. Trying to go through. ...2022 Lexus. What happened with that? Why did you guys have to pull the system down in that thing? If you don't mind me asking. I mean, you don't have to answer, but just wondering. Was there something wrong, like AC compressor or something going on? I don't know if it's flammable. I've never really tried to find that out. I don't want to find that out. It probably is. Maybe there's a warning label right on the can if I remember correctly, but I don't know. What's up, Michael? Michael, how come you don't ever say anything else other than what's up? I love it, man. I love the fact that I see you every video or almost every couple videos, but that's all I ever hear you say is what's up. So what's up? You remember that? What was the stuff back in the day? They were saying they were putting like propane or something like that in the old AC systems, and they were trying to see how cold they can get it, and it was like crystals coming out of the... I just wondered, and that's all. And I love the fact that you comment all the time. You've been doing it for months and months and months and months now, but I'm like, does he never have a question? It's just always what's up. I didn't even know about Ford Tech Make You Loco. I had this channel for like 2.5 years, and I never did anything on it. And I was like, maybe I should start. And then I was like, no, people are going to be jerks. And then I was like, yeah, maybe I should start. And then I was like, you know what? I really hate when people are jerks. I don't want to do it. And then I was like, you know what? Just start putting out content. Quit being a damn baby about it and just do it. So I did. Nothing happened to him. I mean, I just left the dude a voicemail saying, look, if you continue to call my dealership and spread false information about me, I'm just gonna, I will hire a lawyer. Any updates on the new shop? Will we see some new product? Yeah, so the new shop, I appreciate the super chat, by the way. The new shop is, it's, you know, I call it my hobby shop now, but somebody threatened me last night on here, and I get a lot of threats on here, and I wish some of these clowns would show up and actually do something about it instead of just threatening me, because it makes no sense. Why would you threaten somebody and then not I'd like to see somebody actually do something about the threats that they make instead of just threatening people. Some guy showed up and said, I'm surprised it's not a conflict of interest for you to have your own shop and all this other stuff while you're working at the dealership. Why? I don't take business from the dealership. I don't talk bad about my dealership. I love the dealership I work for. The people care about me. I've spoke about them highly many times. When I had nothing, they gave me a job. Literally, I had nothing, guys. I was living out of my truck. I was living out of my truck when I started at this dealership. I had nothing. And they offered me a job. And paid me more than any other dealership out there would pay me. My dealership brought me in and took care of me. Why would I ever talk bad about them or try to steal business from them? I am as loyal can get. Now, I will only deal with so much BS, but it's hard for me to leave my dealership because of what they did for me. Now, I've put in my time and I've given back. I got that. But my little hobby shop is more for this channel. My little hobby shop has nothing to do with my work life. It has nothing to do with me opening this full-blown business or whatever. Yes, it's a nice fallback plan if something should hit the fan. But how many people do you know out there as technicians in the field that don't have a place where they can go work on their own stuff? Almost all these guys have a place or some type. There's 2 other guys at work that have their own private locations that they can go work on their own stuff. And they literally pay like $1,000 a month for rent with open locations or something like that. A lot of technicians out there do have their own places where they can go work on their own stuff. They just don't advertise it online because whatever, for whatever reason that may be. I tell you guys about my life because I'm going to be working on cars that you see on this channel at that shop. Bob, my admin here, he comes out there, I'll work on his stuff there. Or if I know somebody else on here that lives in a local area, I'll work on your stuff there. But I'm not taking customers' cars from the dealership and saying, hey, man, they're wanting to charge you $500 for that. Here's my card. I'll do it for $400. I don't do stuff like that. I don't even offer people to work on their vehicle at my dealership. It's something I do not do. It's against my principles. I will not offer my services to somebody that comes into the dealership. I think it's unprofessional. But if I know a friend, a family, somebody local I'm over an hour, I'm like an hour away from the dealership. There's no conflict there. If I took work from that area, it would not be a confliction to the dealership because those people don't go to the dealership anyway. People that are driving over an hour away to come to my dealership are coming for me anyway. They're not going because they're going to Dundee Ford because they heard from... No, they have their own local dealerships. So, I have my place where I can go do my own thing where there's no conflict. People can't say yes or no, you can do this, you can't do that. I have my own place where I can go to work on my own stuff that you're going to see featured on this channel. A really good friend of mine, he's like a brother to me. He's the one that literally just had the tow truck driver yesterday morning drop off that 2018 NV 3500 that Nissan won't warranty the motor on. These are people that I personally know, that I'm working on their vehicles. It's not like I'm trying to bring in a bunch of clientele from just random land out there, putting a sign out front of my building saying, hey, I'm trying to steal Ford's business. It doesn't work that way. Some guy literally came on here and threatened me last night. I was like, well, I'm surprised you don't get fired from the dealership. And fire me. Fire me. Once you get to a point in your life as a man where other people don't affect you, okay, fire me. You're not going to hurt me. I'm going to stay busy no matter where I go. So your threats are like empty. And this guy was like so upset about the fact that that I'm successful and I'm getting away with what I'm getting away with. Why? Because I'm honest? I don't lie to people? I'm literally doing nothing wrong? I mean, once you get to that spot in your life where you got a little bit of money put away, you have a couple reliable cars, your bills are paid, and you don't owe nobody nothing, it's a very calm spot in your life because nobody can really affect you at that point. Okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to get me fired from my job that I'm just going to go make money somewhere else anyway? My toolbox has wheels for a reason. Literally, nobody wants to be a technician right now. I can go get a job anywhere. I love my dealership. I love what I do, and I love working for Ford. But what are you going to do? I can go walk into a dealership anywhere, literally, and do anything that they want me to do. Once you get to that point in your life, it's like nothing really bothers you anymore. Like, you can make all the threats that you want, but it's like, bro, you're wasting your time. You think your measly comment, it just, I don't know. I don't, at the threat, I think people just, they think that they can say bad, negative things to people and it's going to make them worried or they're going to get scared. It's like, it's not. It's like, dude, what do you think that you're going to do to me that's going to make you... I literally show my boss the comments that show up on this channel. I literally show him all the stuff that people say and talk to him about it. Literally. It's not like I don't... My whole life is an open book, open to a fault. My boss knows everything that happens in my life. I hide nothing from him. Zero. So anyway, the lift is up at the shop. As of when Bob was there last, that last video I put out, they still had to put the cable through. You know, I think it's the cable that kind of times everything and stuff like that. The electrician still has to run the wires for the actual motor. That was, so it might be done now. I just got to go back and check. Just like Joseph said, good techs are hard to find, and nobody wants to do this job right now. Literally, dealerships all across the country have postings out for technicians, and nobody either has the qualifications to do the job, or they don't want to do the job, or they don't want to work for a dealership. Of course they would. If you have the drive to actually jump in and start getting stuff done, they'll hire any of the old guys that know. But a lot of the older guys that know points, condenser type stuff, you know, using a timing light to actually time an engine and stuff, those guys are, they don't want to be in the field anymore. You know, most of them have done their time. They're, you know, they've got the old thick jointed hands and fingers going on, the busted up back and knees and feet that have paved the way for some of us younger guys today. Look, I give those guys all the respect in the world, man. But a lot of them don't want to be in the field anymore. A lot of them that were in the field recently got out and are still getting out because they just don't want to deal with the BS anymore. There's just too much stuff. No one wants to work trades anymore, it seems, be it plumbing, automotive, or aviation. All of us struggling to get people. It is what it is. I looked through like monster.com, I think, isn't that what it's called, that job site? And there's postings upon postings upon postings of people offering $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 sign-on bonuses just to get technicians in the door that will actually, nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to have any part of it anymore. You know, and then the manufacturers come down. So how's this all going to play out? So what are your thoughts on this? I'm going to open the table up to you guys about this. So the 701 and the Automobile Dealers Association come together, and they go after the manufacturers in the state of Illinois. They're saying that if I pull apart, if I do a short block in your 2017 Ford Escape 1.5 liter EcoBoost, and it takes, say, 26 hours to do the short block, good, stable, give me room for error and stuff like that, fixing, cleaning, and all this other stuff, but the manufacturer only wants to pay 19.5. Why is it the customer has to pay, you know, 7, 8, 9 hours more, but the manufacturer gets to skimp on that and pay way less? It shouldn't be that way. Why are the technicians getting screwed over from not making manufacturer pay, but the customers are getting screwed over, overpaying more than what the manufacturer's paying, even though it may be the right pay? So something has to be done here. So the ADA, I think there's something more to that title. It's like ADA something associate. I don't know what it is. Some Automobile Dealers Association and the local 701 Mechanics Union come together. And they went after the manufacturers in the state of Illinois, and it passed the first panel, passed the second panel. So it was a almost unanimous vote across the board saying that the manufacturers should pay the same as customers pay. Well, then J.B. Pritzker, our governor, signed it saying that he's agreeing with everything and he's okay with everything. So as of January 1st, 2022. It's supposed to take effect in the state of Illinois. It will be the first state that says the manufacturers will pay the same amount of money as the customers pay. There's going to be no cutting corners or anything anymore. There's going to be none of that. That they're going to pay. How's that going to play out in the rest of the states? Are other states going to look at that and say, well, if they were able to do it, then why shouldn't we be able to do it? And then it's going to be a fiasco. And then here's what ends up happening. And the technicians that are on this channel that are on here right now that know this, here's what's going to end up happening. How do you think the manufacturers bypass that? We're getting a little dirty here. How do you think the manufacturers are going to bypass from having to pay that? Let's get into the little dirty side of, well, it could be less hours. It could be that then they just changed all that to standard time as well. They come up with a new way to do something or modify that, but I don't think that'll happen. There's a way that they can bypass that. That if they don't put it in legislation, they don't put it in writing, they're going to let them get away with it, and they're still going to do the same thing anyway. Everything will become a technical service bulletin. If it's not a standard repair, how does a manufacturer get by with still flying under the radar? I'll tell you how. It becomes a CSP protocol, customer satisfaction program. It becomes a technical service bulletin, or it becomes some kind of bulletin through the manufacturer where it's not a standard time. Well, if that's the case and everything becomes a technical service bulletin, you wrote this new law up as this is a standard procedure labor rate for this repair. Well, it's not a standard repair anymore. It's become a technical service bulletin now. It's become a customer satisfaction program. It's not a typical repair anymore. So everything will become a TSB, and they'll still stick it to you anyway. They'll find a way around it for sure. They'll find a way. They'll find a way to stop it from happening, because the manufacturer's not going to pay 27 hours, 26 hours for a short block in an EcoBoost engine. Nick said engine flush on the new truck job. I have to see what's torn apart already. I guess from what I gathered, the vehicle's already been to Nissan for inspection. That's how I was able to get the pictures of the sludged up 5.6 liter motor. But my buddy opted to he said just put it all back in the truck and just let me come pick it up, because if the motor won't run and it's no good and you guys aren't going to cover it under warranty, I'm not going to pay you extra time to put everything back together. So I have to figure out how the intake manifold and everything on that and what's missing, where the parts are at, and I have to put it all back together. And then I think I'm going to order a couple of those BG engine restoration kits, and I'm going to run those big jugs of that basically what I call oil stripper through that motor to see what comes out, see what I can wash out of it. And then here's something. Yeah, 5.6 Nissan NV 3500, their V8. Y'all, you take care. Those of you that are leaving, thank you. Well, his motor sludged up in this 5.6 liter within, I think he said 35,000 miles. So now I have to try to figure out what I'm going to do. Well, here is a question for you guys. So you know I have the 85 Thunderbird that I'm going to strip down. I've decided to not leave the vehicle stock. I want to play with this car. It's always been a dream of mine to actually have a true sleeper car that will just destroy most things on the road. And I was talking to some JDM guys, and I said to a guy that I know fairly well now, I'm getting to know him more and more right now, but he's into programming and tuning and everything else, and he said, dude, bring that Thunderbird to the shop. I want to see it parked outside the shop, even if you're not working on it. Get it away from your dealership and bring it here and park it outside the shop. I think it's so cool. And he was like, he's a JDM guy, and he's excited about this new project. And I said, what if we took that 5.6 liter engine that's coming out of that Nissan NV 3500 and we rebuilt it, put a new motor in his, and we kept the motor that's coming out of it, and we took that 5.6 liter and threw it inside that Thunderbird. And he was like, wait a second here, you're onto something. If we took that 5.6 liter Nissan engine and bought the adapter plate kit for the VK series or something engine, we could stick that bulletproof automatic transmission from Nissan on that motor. It was in like the 350Zs or 370Zs or something like that. We could put the adapter plate and put the automatic transmission motor in it, stick that motor in that car, and then I could program that car to run on that motor and transmission setup. And he was like, do you know how many people that would take by storm, especially on the internet? He was like, people would never expect for you to pull up in an American 85 Thunderbird with a 5.6 liter Nissan engine and just destroy people in that thing. It's a thought. Me and him, I don't know yet, man. I don't know what I want to do yet. The problem with the Thunderbird is there's no aftermarket support. I think, what is the 5.6 liter? Isn't it like 370 horse or something like that, just stock? I think it's something like that. Something like, or James said it's 317. I know it's over 300. That's all I know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I was talking to my old service manager last night, and he's a big drag racer. Like, he's got multiple, he's got one 1700 horse Fox body. He's got a 2700 horse twin turbo big block, like an 88 Mustang GT. It's all caged, multiple computers running the show. And he's got just $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on these cars. Just send them off, have them build tube chassis, all kinds of stuff. And I was talking to him about the Thunderbird last night, and he was like, it's gonna be hard with that Thunderbird, dude. He said, if I was you, I might try to find something like a carbureted Ford motor or something, just make it work, just something to drive around. It's pretty quick on the road with what you have, but I wouldn't go putting a ton of money into that car because there's no aftermarket support. You can't find control arms for it. You can't find different types of like K members and stuff like that. They just don't do that with that car, and there's no aftermarket support at all. And everything's going to have to be custom hand built. And if you don't have deep pockets to have somebody sit at a table and build you stuff all day, it ain't worth it. It's not worth putting that kind of money into that car. Just find a carbureted, decent running 400 horse Ford motor, slap it in there, have fun with it, and leave it alone, because it's never going to be anything more than that. Yeah, I've seen the Edelbrock EFI, and then I've seen the Holly stuff as well. It does have a 5.0 in it, but it's not the 5.0 that's easy to mod. If you're putting roller lifters and stuff in it, they were saying that you have to have like you have to drill and tap the block, and then you have to put the pedestals in it to be able to take roller lifters. And guys were saying that it's not the easiest thing in the world to actually make power with, because there's some stuff you have to do to that motor to even make some of the modded stuff work properly. And there's not really anything you can do to the suspension, because there's like no aftermarket stuff there. Um, I wanted to, I really wanted to build that car, but now that I see there's like not a lot of stuff there, it's going to be stuck on stock suspension, which that ain't going to work. You're never going to do anything with that car. It's really just going to be a fun car, and that's it. I would think that there is different calibration there, but it's, I mean, how much are we talking about accelerate difference? If it's like night and day difference, but yet it shows the same spec, there's not that much difference between the two. Calibration may be a little bit different, but I think it's the exact same. I'd have to go back and look. These specific questions about programming between one versus the other, these aren't things we typically know right off the top of our head unless that's something we're doing every single day. And I'm not messing with programming in 2014 and 2016 escapes every day. I'm typically fixing something that's leaking or, uh, yeah, just leaking on these things more than anything. Just looking at comments right now. 4.6 2010 F-150, awesome engine. It is a really good engine, and you can beat the living hell out of them, and they last. Anything you, I know the 5.4s has problems. Anything you suggest besides maintenance to keep alive coolant filter? All right, which one are we talking about? I have a 4.6 2010 F-150, awesome engine. I know the 5.4 has problems. Are we asking a question about the 4.6 or the 5.4? The 5.4 2 valve and the 4.6 2 valve were phenomenal engines. There was just maintain them. That's it. The only issue was when that third valve came in. Yeah, I have. I've done timing chains in them. I think I can do it without removing the crank pulley. How you gonna pull the front cover off of it? Just reading comments right now. My dad has replaced one in his '01 Sierra Dirty Max with another TCM, but can't get it to work. Does it need to be reprogrammed? Yeah, it needs to be reprogrammed for sure. The three valves had most of the problems. They make power. They just had most of the problems. EcoBoost 2.0 or 2.3 in the Bird? Neither. If I did a boosted motor in the Bird, I would probably go with a. I would have to coyote swap it, and that's something I don't want to do. I was watching that other guy with that four-eyed Thunderbird online, and he said it was like 10 grand just to get the motor in trans set up. And then it was like another $5,000 in supporting mods, harness, custom fab, like motor mounts. And the guy was like, if I had to go back and do it again, I probably wouldn't do it. The car is immaculate. It's really fast. There's not a lot of supporting mods when it comes to suspension work. He knew somebody back in the day where he could get parts and stuff where they can custom make stuff for that, and he did. But I would coyote swap it at that point. I would just pull it. I don't know that I would try to pry on the front cover enough to get the chain off around everything and then slip it off. I wouldn't do that. I would pull it. They're not that hard to pull, and they're not that hard to put them back on. You're asking for problems trying to do that. Get it out of there, clean everything up real nice and good. If you have the money, go back with a new one even. Freshen that sucker up. Give her the love she needs. 2010 463 valve, 75,000 miles. When would I do the timing change? Don't do the timing change. Leave it alone for right now. I mean, typically most people do chains around 100,000 to 120, but I've seen people go 150, 160,000 with nothing. You'll hear when it starts to go. What's up? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd want to put a new crank seal. I'd want to clean everything up real good. I'd want to see the back of the cover where the gaskets and stuff made. What are you doing? What are you doing, baby girl? What are you doing? What are you doing? What is it? Anyway, sorry guys. She came out to say hi. The old lady wanted to say hi. She's seen me on the phone. Sure, that's the first thing she likes to see in the morning. I like the 4-liter engine. I think it's a great engine, but you know, a lot of people say that when the ticking and stuff starts and having to do some of the jobs on that motor is not easy. I like it though. Steel R says I have a 2017 F-150 3.5 liter EcoBoost. I've heard a lot about the oil catchers. Are they normally really worth installing for a normal daily driven? I mean, I like them. The only problem is you'll run into if the company doesn't say that it won't void warranty. It's what I would be worried about, because if you take that vehicle back to the dealer and you caught the wrong dealer or something that was being testy about things, they could be like, well, you put an aftermarket modification on, and you know, this voids your warranty or something. It really doesn't void your warranty. It doesn't do anything to the vehicle to hurt it. What it stops it from doing is it catches any of the excessive oil in like the crankcase system from being pulled back into the motor to help it stay cleaner. Is it 100%? No, it's not. But it does help mitigate some of that dirty valve issue by catching a lot of that oil that's coming through there. And then you'll check it once a week if you want to, just initially get a feel for exactly how much oil is being pulled through your system. I heard that you can get billet everything. I haven't seen it yet. I asked somebody to share a link with me. but they were saying that you can actually get like billet guides, you can get billet tensioners. There's like, or steel this and steel that for the 4.6 2-valve setup. And I was like, I don't know. Every time I click on the Ford Racing stuff, it's got the plastic guides and everything on it. It's not all made of steel. So everyone that I've ever seen is, and it does have some kind of plastic material to it in some way, shape, or form. What is this? Come here. She doesn't like when I stop petting her to take attention. Valvoline oil for good for GDI. Any oil is going to be good for a GDI engine. It's, I mean, as long as it fits within the specifications of that motor, it's as long as it's not some cheap, dollar store, Dollar General oil, it'll be fine. I mean, the Supertech stuff from Walmart is good as long as it's meets the specified rating for that motor. When they say you go Mac, you never go back. I mean, the tools that I used from Mac so far have really impressed me compared to everybody else. I used my Snap-on, what is that? The Snap-on 725 series pneumatic impact. I used that for a year and a half, and it snapped the anvil in the front of it. So now I got to buy a new anvil for it. Then I don't buy a lot of Cornwell stuff. I like the Cornwell like ratcheting wrenches and stuff like that. I find that they actually fit my hand the best. It's their Expert line. I think it's Expert, it says. But I think does Mac actually have Expert line as well? I'm not sure. I think they do. I don't know. Maybe it's just Cornwell. The Expert line ratcheting wrenches I really like compared to everybody else. But Mac tools in general, their ratchets feel the best in my hand. It doesn't hurt my hands. I like the way their sockets fit. There's a tool that applies for everything. So I like Snap-on air hammer too, but a few years ago Matco came out with a longer barreled perforated end air hammer that was a monster. Well, recently one of the technicians in my shop wanted a new CP type design, like the old type design air hammer from back in the day, that is it's a rockin' son of a gun. Like, it really rocks. It's 44 years old, and he wanted a newer one, so he got another one from the Cornwell dealer, because the Cornwell dealer basically found him a CP remake, and I think it just has Cornwell's name on it. And then while he was going on vacation, right after he gave it to me, I pulled it apart, cleaned everything out, re-greased everything, put that old gun back together, and that is the best gun I've ever used. I'll never buy another gun again as long as that air hammer continues to work. That old CP that's 44 years old does things that I've never seen a newer air hammer do. I mean, literally will jar the hell out of you just sitting there trying to knock off like a rotor or something like that, or you're trying to get a suspension component apart. I'll be air hammering with this thing, and I'll be really pressing into it, and I'm like, God, my freaking shoulder, my arm by the time I'm done with this thing. And I don't ever feel that with any other air hammer. That old CP is nasty. I mean, it seems the 10R transmissions in general have always had some kind of complaint with elongated shifting or something like that. Or delayed, or not shifting appropriately. Somebody has always had an issue with the 10R80 transmission. So it's been like that way for years. People want the 10-speed, people want the fuel economy, people want all this stuff, but then when they get it and the kinks aren't quite worked out, or when you're trying to take a 10-speed and you're trying to pack it into a economy-sized transmission and make it perform, you got all this moving stuff going on. Programming's got to be perfect. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. When we had just regular 6-speed transmissions, nobody really complained about stuff as much. And then with 8 speeds, then the complaining started more. And then 10 speeds, and then people are like livid about how it hunts so much to figure out what gear it's supposed to be in based on driver demand. It's like the nature of the beast with this thing. Do I want to accept it? No. Is it ever going to be 100% ironed out? I highly doubt it. I'm going to try to read your other comment, because obviously there was a follow-up today. My '08 street trim CVPI is at 240,000 miles. Chains are fine. Has a 2.5 liter 5-cylinder gas engine with the original timing chain. The 2.5 liters seem to be really, really good engines, even with Ford as well. 2.5 liter naturally aspirated, they don't really seem to have problems. They're really, really good engines. They wouldn't make a deal on that Ranger without taking me to the cleaners. How long would you run the 2018 Ram 1500 for? I have 63,000 miles. You're not like Scotty with those, are you? No. I'm not like Scotty with anything. I don't have a reason to talk bad about manufacturers or vehicles or any of that stuff. I don't believe in that stuff. It's very unprofessional when people do that. I mean, you guys can do that all you want, but me in the industry, it would be very unprofessional for me to do that. It's just not a good character of a mechanic that wants to just sit around and bash vehicles just because. I think that the Ram 1500 Hemi is a great motor. It's got a ton of power. I think it's actually torquier on the low end than the F-150 5-liter Coyote is, because it's got still that old push rod design. But once it gets moving, that's where that Coyote really starts to open up and really show itself. I took a Ram out at 1500 5.7, and it was traded in, and I dogged the hell out of it for about 10 minutes trying to figure out if anything's wrong with it. Is it going to overheat? Trying to really make sure I inspected this thing right. And I was so impressed with how this truck just got up and went. I mean, it just the get up and go has got up and gone, right, for some vehicles. But this vehicle in particular, when you get on it, it's gone. It moves, and it moves very quick. But I found that about the 30 to 40 mile an hour mark is where the F-150 with the Coyote and it really starts to pull away and show how the performance of the Ford 5-liter is much better than a lot of the other V8s. It's just a very, very, very superior motor when it comes to that. I like the Hemi. It's got, about 50, 60,000 miles. It starts with that typical Hemi tick. It seems to be a characteristic of that motor. Then you get the exhaust hissing from the manifolds. But other than that, if you could find somebody to tune that after treatment or the active fuel management out of that, I think they're great motors. But with that active fuel management, I've had too many problems with them at the shop. We had one with 35,000 miles come in, and cylinder 5 already starting to act up. The active fuel management on that was really causing some issues. You put new plugs in it, do all kinds of stuff to it, it wouldn't take anything away. It's that active fuel management. Michael Chan, I won't bash vehicles or manufacturers or vehicles, but you have to admit there have been some monumental fails by some manufacturers. There have. Ford with their whole EcoBoost design and how dirty these motors are. Absolutely hate that. I hate how they didn't think about taking care of that side of things and the longevity of that motor. Um, Chevy with their whole fuel management thing, or the cylinder or the lifters dropping in and out. We're seeing constant problems next door at the dealership all the time, where it's lifters and stuff eating up cam lobes and stuff like that. And even us here, I wonder when, she has a 2007, when this thing's going to act up. It's got 150,000 miles on it. It hasn't acted up now, but I keep up on the services like it's clockwork. I don't let anything lapse, and if it needs something, it gets taken care of right away. I could have been doing better the last couple months. I've been slacking a little bit, but I could have done better. And it's only a matter of time before this thing acts up. It has that AFM stuff. And then her dad's Chevy, it's acting up all of a sudden. Oxygen sensors going out. I don't know, I think he's having issues with the AFM stuff now or something like that. I told him it'd be better if you just go to somebody and have that stuff programmed out of it to where it's not even functioning. Volkswagen's had some issues and stuff. Lately, I've seen an increase in people talking to me about turbo mounting studs and stuff snapping. One of the guys at work, he just had to do his turbo mounting studs on his very well maintained Volkswagen. I think it's a GTI or something like that. And it seems to become more and more of a problem with quality overall. It's not so much the manufacturer, it's people wanting more and wanting to pay less, but then you have to actually start chipping away at quality to give people what they want. Okay, you want to pay less for a vehicle, but you want more, but then that means I have to make the vehicle cheaper, or else there's no profit margin, right? So a lot of people don't understand why they're paying $60,000 for a vehicle, but they want all the nice creature comforts to go along with it. Yeah, that Bob sent me a video of his friend's 5.7 Hemi in his Dodge, and it sounded like the damn pistons were coming out of the block in that thing. It sounded terrible. It's only got 110,000 miles on it. It literally sounded like that motor was coming apart. I have a 5.4 with 143,000 miles with a tick noise after warm-up and 10 minutes on the freeway. It could start to, you might be having some kind of like early, or not early, but issues with I wonder if the timing chains and guides and stuff are going to need to be done on that soon. Once it starts doing stuff like that and tune-up and everything's been taken care of, I start to suspect that maybe some kind of fuel or some kind of timing issue if you've kept up with everything else. But then you have to pinpoint exactly, is the tick a motor tick, or is the tick, could it be coming from somewhere else, like a suspension component or something at a certain highway speed? When you reference highway speed, it's nice to get everything that goes along with it. Does it not happen on cold start and only when it warms up? If it's only when it warms up, does it happen at in-town driving, 25 mile an hour, 30 mile an hour or less? Or is it only at highway speeds that it happens? It's probably worth about 30 to 35 a dealer. Private party with 20,000 miles, a 2007 5.4 4-valve. It's hard to price that out because there's nothing wrong with that car. It's probably still up there around 25,000 somewhere, depending, $25,000, $30,000. If power wasn't your thing, would you rather have a 4.6 or a 5-liter Coyote? Both brand new and both stock 4.6. 4.6 all day. All day 4.6. Not even a question. 2015 Escape 2.0 liter Eco all-wheel drive. What mileage intervals do you suggest drain and fills on the auto trans? I like to see them about 40,000 miles, 30 to 40,000 miles, somewhere in there. Probably 40,000 miles. Drain and fill. You let it go too long, the stuff really starts smelling sooty. It almost smells like exhaust, to be honest with you, sometimes. And it's got gritty material from the clutch packs and stuff coming apart. So I like to do them at about 30, 40,000 miles. They're easy to do, doesn't cost that much to do it. You can even do it at home if you want, if you really felt froggy enough. How do I feel about Ford moving away from the sedan market? I don't necessarily like it, but I understand why, because SUVs and trucks are starting to get better and better and better fuel economy, and they're much safer. And then now more and more people are buying SUVs because of the fuel mileage going up. I just think it's going to happen with most manufacturers eventually. The old Ram 318, 360 engines are pretty tough, Mopar grade for sure. Yeah, the Magnum motors, you can beat the living mess out of them and they just keep going. Michael said 6.4 diesel, that was a nightmare motor. Yeah, they were a nightmare motor. There was always something going wrong with them. Always something. Even when I was at the international dealer, we would have the guys bring their Fords by all the time. There's always something going wrong with those motors. But of course, I had VT365s and I had all kinds of stuff, and DT444s. There was stuff I was working on at the dealer all the time, so it wasn't just like the 6.4s. There was a lot of people having problems once the EGR and emissions controls really came online. There's always something going on. A 3.2 liter diesel engine and the Transits aren't much better. I think there's a good reason why they discontinued the diesel option for the 2020 newer model years. Yeah, the diesels and the Transits were having a lot of EGR cooler leaking issues, coolant reservoirs just randomly showing up dry because they were sucking all the coolant and stuff into the exhaust, and so it's not an easy job. A lot of times you find you walk out to the vehicle and you're doing general checks and all of a sudden the reservoir be completely empty on those. Yeah, it's because it all went through the EGR cooler. Trying to look through comments right now. What about all these 1.5 liter engines? Are they fixed once they updated the bottom ends? Yeah, I mean, we don't ever see them come back with issues. There's not a single motor I've done so far with the 3.5 liter bottom end or the 1.5 liter bottom end update where they've come back for issues. Customers are super happy with them. Trying to look here. How is the 2018 Plus 5.0 doing? We really don't have a lot of issues with them. It's honestly the 5.0 from 2018 on, as people are complaining about, is the rattle on D-cell, which I found the VCT solenoid. I replaced a few of them. That took away the rattle on D-cell. The exhaust rattle from underneath, because where that clamp breaks, which is easy to fix, put a damn hose clamp on it, you're good. And then the motors are noisy. They just make a lot of noise, you know, and they don't no check engine light or anything, just make a lot of noise. That's the number one customer complaint. Is like, I didn't buy this vehicle for me to put 10,000 miles on it, and then this rickety racket happen all the time. They're chattery. They like to talk to you. We have people that come in over 100,000 miles, or 80 to 100,000 miles on some of these, the 2017, 18, 19 that are on the road for business all the time. They're noisy motors. If you can't get the big connection unplugged at the module under the passenger seat, chances are what ended up happening is the pin's probably burned up and melted the plastic to the pin, and it's not able to come apart anymore. So you're probably gonna have to end up putting a new connector on it, and you're gonna have to put a new module in it. But if you can mess around with that thing and pull on it enough, kind of get like a small screwdriver and stuff in there, wiggle it around, try to pull that connection out while you're making sure the locking tab is released completely, it'll eventually come out, but you're probably going to pull plastic and a pin and stuff with it. It's probably melted inside the housing. That's why. Yeah, the Motorcraft batteries are really, really good. I would have to see it, man. It's I don't know about the 5.4 tick only when it warms up. Have you tried changing the oil viscosities? Have you tried putting an oil stabilizer in it to see if it's a clearance issue type thing? I mean, it's hard to do over the phone with the tick stuff. See if it's a lubrication type thing first. Maybe add some stabilizer to the oil and then run it for, one of your oil changes and see if that changes anything. If it does change anything, obviously something's worn or out of adjustment. I don't know anything about the 8.1 liter 496. I don't know why they just offer more models overseas. It's always been that way. They just got different models and stuff than we have here. Maybe for demographic reasons, because of region type of work, like how they do the El Caminos and stuff like that. They thought were just not existing. A few years ago, I see that the people can still get El Camino type vehicles overseas, depending on manufacturers that make it. Little cars with truck beds still in it and stuff. And I was like, why am I being gypped? I thought they quit making those things. And then you see over in Australia, somebody going into the outback or something like that, and they're driving something that looks like a brand new El Camino. I'm like, huh? What the hell is this? Think a dingo ate the baby. Two Lincoln Town cars, one's a 95, the other's a 96. 96 is in immaculate shape and still smells new inside. It has all the features of the Cartier, but it's a signature Jack Nicklaus. Wow, nice, super nice. Love those cars, man. My favorite cars. They should do with the base F-150 what they did with the 250 and above, where they put the push rod 7.3 in there, and it's been a great, great setup. They should do the same thing with the F-150. Put the 4.6 2 valve back in it, but just upgrade some of the technology so we get a little bit more fuel mileage and stuff out of it. It would be a phenomenal motor. But again, you can't make money off that. They run too damn good. Yep. I think Ford was losing money on the 4.6 because they designed them too reliable. I believe that 100%. Do you reseal the 6.7s per workshop manual or cab off? Cab off. Yeah, that EGR cooler job on the Transits, that's a shit job, man. I hate that job. New F-150 5.0 oil pump change to belt drive. Ah, I don't know what I think. I haven't seen any failures with any of that stuff yet. Do I think it's a great idea? Probably not. Um, But then again, I'm not a I'm not an engineer that designs this stuff, you know. So I mean, I don't see why they would change, but maybe there's a reason for it. I have a 79 LTD 351, and it's getting hard to find mechanics up here in Canada that can adjust my carburetor. Most mechanics don't know how to do that. Or you gotta order one of them cheap Edelbrocks that you just throw the adjustment screws on it and listen for the idle, and they don't know how to do that stuff. It would take me a while just to get set up to figure everything out again, but I've had plenty of carbureted vehicles where I've had to do that. People don't get into this stuff anymore. What's going on from Kentucky? I want to go down to Kentucky so bad. I actually thought about moving down there. A lot of my family have moved there in Wisconsin.